Hey everyone, today I'm excited to share one of my all-time favorite opening gambits. It may look crazy, but it's incredibly powerful. Introducing the Mangarini Gambit, a daring weapon for white against the popular Sicilian Defense. It starts with a surprising move, pawn to a3, followed by pawn to b4. At first glance, it seems like you're breaking every fundamental chess principle. You're not developing pieces, controlling the center, or preparing to castle. However, this idea is far from nonsense. Magnus Carlsen even used it in a world championship match and won. This unusual approach often shocks opponents. Most of the time, black realizes the only purpose of a3 is to prepare b4, so they respond with knight to c6, aiming to control the square and stop the advance. But white boldly plays b4 anyway, which can make you look like a complete beginner throwing away material. Black almost always captures the pawn. If they don't, white pushes forward, attacking the knight and causing a lot of trouble. After capturing the pawn on b4, black feels comfortable, but that's when you spring the next surprise. Pawn to c3, immediately attacking the knight and gaining tempo. When the knight retreats, you continue with pawn to d4, and now the true potential of the Mangarini Gambit starts to shine. You've established a strong pawn duo in the center, giving you excellent control of the board. The pawn on d4 is poised to advance, threatening the knight again. Additionally, your rook is activated early from its starting square, and your pieces have open lines and diagonals, making development fast and aggressive. It's reminiscent of the Evans Gambit, bold, dynamic, and full of tactical opportunities. Now, black typically anticipates pawn to d5 and tries to prevent it by playing pawn to d5 themselves. On the surface, this move looks natural. It challenges your control of the center and fights for space. However, while it's not exactly a mistake, it does create vulnerabilities. Even titled players often underestimate the danger, finding themselves in serious trouble within just a few moves. The gambit's deceptive nature leads opponents into traps, and they can collapse quickly, even when playing confidently. Here's where the fun begins. After black recaptures on d5, you continue with a surprising move, knight to a3. At first glance, this move seems absurd, blatantly ignoring classical principles. Placing your knight on the edge of the board, where it's supposedly dim and ineffective, might make you look like a beginner playing random moves. But this seemingly dumb move is deceptively powerful. The idea is simple, yet brilliant. You plan to bring the knight to b5, setting up a devastating threat. A jump to c7, where it delivers a triple fork to black's king, queen, and rook. This threat is surprisingly hard to deal with. Even if black realizes what's coming, finding a reliable defense is challenging. The Mangarini Gambit leverages this uncomfortable pressure to create winning chances against unprepared opponents. One of the most common responses from black is the standard pawn to e5, a perfectly natural move in many openings. However, in the Mangarini Gambit, it's a serious blunder. The move does nothing to stop white's true intentions. White strikes back immediately with knight to b5, setting up the nasty threat of knight to c7, forking the king and queen. This threat is devastating, and black often struggles to defend, even if they see it coming. The Mangarini Gambit thrives on these unorthodox ideas, turning seemingly weak moves into powerful tactical threats. Black may try a few different defenses, one of the most common being retreating the queen back to d8. This move technically controls the c7 square, but it also hands white a valuable tempo. Your d-pawn can now march forward, a recurring theme in this gambit. By pushing the pawn, you drive the knight away, gaining even more initiative. Once the knight retreats, your pawn continues its advance, landing on d6. Suddenly, the threat of knight to c7 is back on the table, and black is in a tough spot yet again. What makes this plan so effective is its simplicity. You just keep pushing, and black struggles to handle it. In response, black often plays knight to a6, desperately trying to block the threat. However, you shouldn't hesitate to sacrifice the exchange here. After trading rooks, you play knight to c7, regaining the rook and winning a piece in the process. When black's king shuffles to d7, capturing the rook is tempting, but even stronger is to go on the offensive. Instead of grabbing material, you start hunting the exposed king. Queen to a4 delivers a nasty check, and black's options are painfully limited. After the forced king capture on d6, you continue the assault with knight to e8, delivering another check. The fun part about this gambit is how relentless it is. Each move piles on more pressure, forcing black into a miserable position. Even strong players often crumble under this unexpected onslaught, and it's easy to see why. White's threats are direct, dangerous, and difficult to parry. It's hard to think of any other opening where you deliver such an unexpected check from e8, deep in black's territory. At this point, black's king has limited escape options. The knight on e8 controls critical squares, and white has the powerful resource of pushing pawn to a3, delivering a check from the side. This traps the king further, preventing it from retreating. If black's king moves to e6, white calmly brings the bishop forward, delivering another check. The king is forced to keep advancing, but any attempt to find safety is futile. For instance, if the king steps to a 7, the bishop on a 3 nearly delivers a checkmate, and black would be forced to sacrifice the queen to survive a bit longer. From here, white's attack is straightforward. You simply keep delivering checks, queen to c2, and black's king finds itself dancing around, unable to escape. The moves practically play themselves because each check pushes the king closer to disaster. Even if the sequence seems a bit lengthy, it's easy to navigate since your goal is clear. Relentlessly chase down black's exposed king. For example, if the king ventures to e5, white continues the assault. Should the king capture on a 5, white swiftly delivers checkmate in just a few moves. The Mangarini gambit might look unconventional, but it demonstrates how powerful relentless pressure can be, catching even experienced players off guard. In most cases, black's king ends up on a 5, and the finish to this attack is absolutely stunning. You calmly play pawn to f4, delivering a check with the pawn. When black captures it, you respond with a seemingly casual move, knight takes f3. It's such a common developing move in countless chess openings, yet here it delivers a brutal checkmate. It's rare to see knight to f3 used with such devastating effect. I can't think of any other example where this humble move ends the game so decisively. What makes this even more satisfying is that it's not some obscure, low-probability line. We've just analyzed black's most popular responses to the Mangarini gambit, and they consistently lead to this exact checkmate. It's a perfect demonstration of how an unconventional opening can create devastating threats, catching opponents off guard and delivering a memorable finish. Let's examine another way black tries to defend after pawn to e5. White aggressively jumps to b5, threatening knight c7. Instead of retreating the queen, which we know fails, black tries bishop d6, developing a piece and blocking knight c7. White responds with a brilliant bishop to c4, sacrificing the bishop while attacking black's queen. If black captures with queen takes c4, white plays knight to d6, forking the king and queen, leaving black lost. Therefore, black must keep guarding the bishop and can only play queen e4 to check white's king. Black seems to have temporarily solved the problem, but you simply cover your king. The bishop still needs to guard the c7 square, so the only move is bishop to b8. Now your position is so dominant, you're far ahead in development. Almost any reasonable move wins, but the strongest is queen to b3, launching another attack on black's king. Black can't defend properly since you control critical squares. Forced to retreat, black plays queen to g6. Again, any natural move secures victory. d5 is especially powerful. You push the pawn, kicking the knight back to d8 and leaving black in a hopeless position. Now we can play bishop to a3, cutting off black's king from castling and creating serious threats. If black responds with knight to f6, remember this powerful motif. When your two bishops are lined up toward the opponent's king, they often create deadly attacking ideas, even against a castled king. By the way, if you're interested in mastering this concept, I've got a free masterclass linked below the video, covering how to launch successful attacks in the middle game. Back to the main position, thanks to the two bishops, you can play queen to b4, threatening a simple checkmate with queen to e7. Black may try to defend, but their position is completely lost.